Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Jimmy and this is the Fuji Xt1. A whole lot of unnecessary pointing. I don't know what's going on there. But today I want to go over a basic kind of thing when it comes to focusing with the Fuji Xt1. This camera's got a lot of subtle functions that you can employ here that if you learn them, you can really take control of your focusing and be really cognizant of what you're doing at all times. There's nothing wrong with going auto all the time with your focusing. A lot of people do that, but you'd be surprised how many cool functions there are in here that many people don't take advantage of, including myself. I try to practice them and then teach other people about it, and I find that when I do, there's a lot of confusion because they have a lot of misconceptions in their head about what manual focusing is, what auto focusing is, and how that ties into all the knobs and buttons up here. And I hope to dispel that right now. In fact, I want to go over this topic of focusing with this camera that it will take a few videos. I can't stuff it all in one. I was trying many times, oh so many times. I was not only going to confuse you guys, but I was confusing myself, because when you try to stuff everything together at one time, you're really shortchanging the people that are wanting to learn. So I hope to do it clearly, how to do it in a way that everyone understands and has fun trying to follow along. So here's the first thing I want to relay before we go into the camera view here, in a way that I think of it that helps me understand how this camera works. This camera has two parts. There is the exposure side and there is the focusing side. They are not related. They are separate entities. They are not dependent on one another, although they are related because you're taking a picture, you want it to be focused and you want it to be exposed correctly, but they're not related upon one another. There's really no real relationship when it comes to these things. That's the first thing I want to really relay to you guys, because a lot of people think the focusing and the exposure are dependent on one another, as in the buttons you control here for the exposure somehow to make the focusing different in terms of how it operates, which it doesn't. So most people just leave it on automatic when it comes to the focusing, as to not screw around with things when it comes to these buttons. So they just want to leave it automatic. They'll use manual exposure and leave it automatic focusing rather than the other way around. Two separate things. Let's learn how the focusing side works. Okay guys, as I mentioned before, this is the exposure side of things. I want you guys to get a very close look and so you can understand what I'm trying to say. There are two parts, the exposure side, which we won't get into today, but as you know, the exposure can go full on automatic or manual. Yes, you understand that. The second part to the camera, which is the focusing side, also can be full automatic or fully manual, whatever you want, okay? But they are not related. They don't depend on each other for this camera to work in terms of focusing and exposure. Totally different thing. That part on top is the exposure side. Here is the focusing side. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is S, C, and the M. 85% of the time, I have it on the S, which stands for still subject, I guess you can say. It's a type of autofocus. So S is an autofocus, which was for still items or relatively still. C is for continuous or continuous subject within your camera's field of view that you want to have tracked. If it's in motion, it can actually track it and take a picture in focus. It's truly amazing the way the autofocusing works. So C is also a type of autofocus, right? It automatically tracks a subject that's moving around in front of your lens. Now, if it's really close to the lens and you're moving around and you're trying to track someone that's moving around really quickly and erratically, that's not what it's for, man. It's not going to work like that. Don't be silly. It's just going to be, predictably tracking something within reason. For example, a slow wading duck that's moving in one general direction and within your field of view, a train that's hopefully going towards you while you're not on the tracks, or a boat in a far off distance within reason, okay? It's pretty advanced. It can do some pretty amazing things with all the new firmware updates that we've been exposed to. The M here is for manual. The S is an autofocus. The C is a type of autofocus. And the M is not an autofocus. It is a manual type of focus. It's in your hands. You control it by looking and seeing if you're in control of your focusing. Okay? We're going to get into that a little bit more later, but for right now, I just want to go over those three things. this is your focus selection knob. Get to know it well, but for the most part, if you leave it here like I do for the most part, because I take pictures of things that are relatively still, you're going to get along just fine. Okay, the autofocus on this camera is fantastic, so let's leave it there for the next example as we get to learn about the Q when it comes, the Q menu, the quick menu when it comes to focusing. Press the Q right now and go here. This is called AF mode, the block. As you see, AF stands for autofocusing. Right now, I usually leave it here. Again, almost all the time, that little point right there, I like to be very exact with my focusing, so I leave it like that. When I zero out by using the half shutter button, I just lightly press it, I can pinpoint what I want focused. Whether it be someone's eye, a small little object, I can kind of focus exactly what I want and take that picture. It does take a little longer because that little square is very small. You can adjust that size, also its placement, which I made another video about in the past. That's not what this video is about, the small things. This is a very general overview in the quick menu when you're on the S, the still selection when it comes to focusing. So let's go back to the Q menu and use this knob here to adjust it. Go from the point to small little brackets. This is a type of zone focusing. It's still automatic and still the mode that we're in right now, okay? So hopefully you guys can see this. If I tilt it down, you see those little brackets? That is a type of zone that we are zeroing in on. I want to focus within these brackets. So I'm telling the camera, don't worry about all this extra space. I'll make sure that whatever I want to be of interest to be in this general area, I just want you to hunt right there, Mr. Camera. And the camera goes, okay, great. We can actually work a lot faster that way. Boom. You see those extra dots right there, extra focusing points? The camera is just saying, okay, it's within those brackets. Boom, take that picture. Right there, I'm within those brackets. And it kind of takes that interest, that whatever's contrast here, and just says, you know, it's in that zone. I'm going to focus on something that I think is interesting and take that picture. Right now I have a deck of cards and an Altoids tin in front of me. And I have this bracket right there. I'm going to put it right here. It's kind of focusing more on the cards. It's more interesting, right? What if I put it more towards the left side? Yeah, it's going to focus on the tin more. It depends on where I kind of generally lay this bracket on. Okay? It takes pictures, well, it focuses very quickly, enabling you to take pictures comfortably. Okay? So let's go back to the Q menu. Remember, we're still on still, because I'm taking pictures of things that are relatively still. And I'm going to go to the next bracket. I'm sorry. The next bracket is extra big. It's the entire frame of the camera here, the entire view. So the bracket is actually, if you guys can see that, the entire EVF there. It's kind of, I'm telling the camera once again, instead of focusing that tiny little dot or that one little range, hey, anything within this field of view here could be of interest. So I really want you to hunt around, Mr. Camera, and find the thing that you think I would want to focus on. Okay, so let the camera do all the work. As you can see, this is very much an auto focus. What if I have two things in the field right now of the brackets? It's kind of just adjusting and taking pictures of both. Right now, of the deck of cards. Sometimes it'll focus on both things, especially if it's in the same plane, which it's not doing right now. Again, this is very frustrating if I don't want to do this. If I want to be very exact and take pictures of one thing, I'm on the wrong mode here, right? I should go to Q and adjust it to be more exact with a single point or a smaller zone area. Okay? Now, I'm going to leave it here and go move this to the C. The C stands for continuously moving subject in your lens, in front of your lens. Again, it's something that's steadily moving, that's very predictable. Your camera can do a really great job tracking it, okay? So, I'm going to go to Q, and it's on that single point, yeah? So, listen to what happens. I'm going to try and move this. I'm going to try and focus it by half pressing the shutter button here. And I'm going to focus on the Altoids tin. As I hold it down, the camera's actually whirring around. I can feel it moving inside. It's continuously tracking. Do you see it constantly working right now? If you're too close, obviously it's not going to work. Try this out for yourself. Okay, so that was relatively in focus and it worked just fine. Again, that thing wasn't really moving all that much. It was moving forwards and backwards, and I was also help tracking as well. And that's a very interesting function to play around with. Okay, if I go back to Q here and move this to the bracket yet again, the smaller bracket, what am I saying to the camera now? I want you to track what's in motion within these brackets, okay? So watch what happens now. I have to give it some little distance here. Do you see those points of focusing, focal points? There's multiple of them, and as I'm moving within the brackets here, it's actually tracking it within the zone. This is called zone tracking. And I'm in the C mode, which is continuously allowing me to track the thing that's moving within it. I'm moving towards the camera. I'm moving away from the camera. I can also track it as long as I can keep it within that frame. It works really well. I do think that's the most useful of the continual focusing, autofocusing modes that there is, but I can also go even wider, right? I can use this one. This works really well for extra wide lenses, and you're kind of filming something, let's say a boat or a train, for example, very far away. But if I don't have that right now, I don't know that ability to film that, I will do my best. Right now the camera is trying to hunt and find something of interest. There is no small bracket area. I can go anywhere in the frame and it's using all these focal points to try and track something of interest. This is so amazing. I can go to the extreme corners and it'll find something. I can go towards the camera. This might be a little too close. I can go far away. Maybe this thinks this is a face of some kind, which we'll go over in another video. So right now it's kind of screwing up, right? It's thinking something on the table is a focus and my Altoids is being missed here. My camera is always in a state of movement right now. The lens is really whirring and really working hard. Looks like it's found something. I'll try to move it very slowly. Okay. So it has all that room to play with right there. Now if I go to Q menu and move this to the M, I'll show you what happens. Okay, this is now changed to manual focus, and certain items such as the face detection is turned off. I'm going to zero out and put the Altoids in front of me right there, and I'm going to focus on it manually with my hands. Now some of you might be asking why it's zoomed in so much, and that's a setting that I made on my camera when I'm manually focusing. There's a video I made that in a previous time, so definitely check that out. Okay, so with manual focusing, this was the part where I would change the autofocusing mode, but because we're on manual focusing, there is no autofocus bracket, right? I'm in control of what I want to focus on. I can take it as far out of focus or into focus as I want. It's totally up to me. I hope this becomes a very good starting point for people to become familiar with the focusing aspects of the Fuji Xt1 and the fact that they are separate, or that this is separate from the exposure side of things, and how this relates to the Q menu and what's automatic, the S and the C, and how the M is manual. But in the future videos, I will get into the manual focusing mode and how that actually isn't fully manual at all. That has a lot of automatic aspects to it, which is really amazing and very favorable with a lot of Fujifilm users. We'll get into that in a whole other video. I hope I've helped you guys. Please practice, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.